The Mets are in the shadow of the 7 train once again, home at Shea Stadium after a 10-game road trip. The Mets went 6-4 in San Diego, San Francisco, and Atlanta, getting great pitching from their aces. Some spectacular defense to help out. And the long ball when the Mets needed it most. They even made some history, Julio Franco becoming the oldest man to hit a home run. Now the Mets are back at Shea for 7 games. It starts tonight. Mets baseball is next. The Mets finished the month of April with a 16-8 record and a 6-game lead in the National League East as they matched their high victory total ever in the first month of the season. Now the Mets are back at Shea for 7 games, including 3 more against the Braves over the weekend. But first, the Washington Nationals are in town to play the Mets at Shea Stadium in New York. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Shea Stadium. Gary Cohen and Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets open a 2-game series against the Washington Nationals, fresh off a 6-4 road trip, which was very, very encouraging.
It was encouraging. They played great baseball on the road trip, really belonged in every single game. And I think that's one of the keys for this team last year. They finished 11 games under 500 on the road. So far, so good, 9-4.
And now they return home. Now they've got the Braves coming up again this weekend, a 3rd series early in the season, but they've got a couple of bottom dwellers to play first in Washington and Pittsburgh.
And you have to take care of business when you're facing those teams that aren't playing well in the beginning of the season, Washington and Pittsburgh, before you get to Atlanta. And remember, these early games against Washington are always going to be important. At the end, also, the last 10 games, these two teams meet each other 7 times.
Now, the Mets continue to have the best staff ERA in the National League. Their 2 aces are pitching great. The bullpen has been very solid, but the back of the rotation is still a concern. Now, tonight, Victor Zambrano takes them out. He's got 3 starts under his belt, and he's still looking for a solid one.
Yeah, he is, and Victor Zambrano is very important to this pitching staff. He has to go out there and give them innings. He has the talent to be able to pitch and win 10 to 12 games. He's got to go show it, though. This is one of those times that the noose is starting to tighten, and he needs to pitch better to get back in the confidence of Willie Randolph.
And with Brian Bannister on the disabled list, that means John Maine comes up to make his first start as a Met tomorrow. So all of a sudden, the Mets are pitching in situations where they don't have necessarily a solid starter on the mound.
But doesn't this happen all the time? You judge your team by how those pitchers do that are at the bottom of your rotation. They can give you anything as far as innings and wins. Those are the teams that are usually successful.
So it's the Mets and Nationals tonight at Shea Stadium, first of a 2-game series, and we'll come back with more from Shea in just a moment as the Mets and Nationals get set to do battle. Here at Shea Stadium, the Mets and Nationals getting set to open a 2-game series. It's the 1st of May. It was a very successful April for the Mets. They finished at 16-8, tying for the most wins they've ever had in the month of April. And fans coming into Shea getting set for the start of a 7-game homestand as the Mets and Nationals open it up tonight with the first of a 2-game series. And it was a very interesting month of April on a lot of fronts. Certainly the Mets were front and center in that.
Well, it's not only that they won the ball games, it's how they won the games. They're able to do it with solid starting pitching. Their bullpen has just been almost unhittable. And so far the offense really will Delgado in the middle. Beltran now starting to come back from that injury. Matsui has done a good job and placed Fernandez, so it's pretty good.
Of course, the Mets were not the only story in the month of April. Lots else has gone on in Major League Baseball. Albert Pujols setting the Major League record for home runs in the month of April.
Well, Pujols, if they had another league, he would be called up to that league because he's making a mockery of the National League with those 14 dingers.
And, you know, we talked about Pujols the other day and whether he'd start getting the Barry Bonds treatment, and yesterday he drew 4 walks against the Nationals, so that's starting already.
I was starting to talk to some of the national beat writers, and they said yesterday that it looked like Washington just did not want any part of Albert Pujols, and I think a lot of teams are going to start doing that also.
Meanwhile, the Mets have the best pitching in the National League, but the team with the best staff ERA in the major leagues, the Detroit Tigers, under their new manager Jim Leyland.
Well, I think they've been one of the surprises also. Chicago White Sox again this year, putting 2 years together in a row. They're 17-7, top their division. But the Colorado Rockies, how about the Rockies 15-10 on top of their division, a team that was probably picked to finish at the bottom of the pile.
And winning on the road, something the Rockies have always had trouble doing.
Winning on the road and hitting on the road, something they haven't done in their past.
And then throw in the Cincinnati Reds, who we know are a wrecking crew, but have really solidified with Bronson Arroyo joining their starting rotation.
Arroyo, for some reason, never was one of those guys that was a number 1 or 2 pitcher, but he's pitching like that in Cincinnati. Wants the balls, also hit a couple of home runs. But Arroyo looks like the kind of guy that, hey, I was in Boston, I was one of third or fourth starter, now I'm ready to go.
So the Mets and the Nationals getting set to kick off the month of May, and the Mets are hoping for a month just as productive as April. First pitch coming up from Shea. Victor Zambrano set to pitch for the Mets tonight as Marlon Byrd leads off. Byrd playing center field. When we last saw the Nationals, they had Brandon Watson playing center field. Things have changed significantly since then. And Byrd swings through one.
Yeah, that experiment did not work out so well for the Nationals. They thought that he could be their leadoff hitter, send Ryan Church down. Now Ryan Church is back, but Byrd playing center field tonight.
Church has been sick the last couple of days with the flu, giving Byrd a chance, and he drives one to left center field. A long run for Beltran, but he'll get there, and that's the first out of the game. So Byrd, who has filled in and swung a bat very hot the last couple of days, part of the Rico Nationals lineup. Nick Johnson has had a super start to his season. So is Jose Vidro. So is Alfonso Soriano. But Jose Guillen, counted on to be a big bat in that Nationals lineup, has not. And Ryan Zimmerman not in the lineup tonight. He is away following the death of his grandmother. Should be back tomorrow. Jose Vidro fouls the first one off. Vidro, there you see, hitting a .344, coming back from leg problems last year. He has been back to the Vidro of old.
And again, swinging at that first pitch in Zambrano's last start. Very aggressive against Victor, swinging at that first pitch. You think that you wouldn't normally do that because Victor can be around the strike zone.
1-1 to Vidro. Well, Zambrano has been so erratic. Last year, most of the time, Victor would be solid except for one bad inning. But this year, he's had trouble getting any kind of rhythm going over the course of his 3 starts.
Any kind of continuity. He's added this changeup to his repertoire, and it's a pitch I think that will really help him, but it's taken away a little from his slider and the ability to spot his slider.
And he misses away with a fastball, and he's behind on Vidro 3-1. Rick Peterson has done so much work trying to work on the mental side of Zambrano more than anything else. And he walks Vidro, and the Nationals have a 1-out base run. The walks have not been as much of an issue for Victor this year as the long balls. I mean, here's a guy who last year was 4th in the National League at preventing home runs, but he's given up 5 in his last 2 starts.
That tells me a couple of things. One, of course, he's not making the pitch in the location he wants to, but also Victor has always had so much movement to his ball. I kind of wonder, is that movement gone away?
And all of the home runs he has given up this season, all 5 of them have come with 2 strikes. So here's Soriano, who's been hitting leadoff most of the time, but batting 3rd in the order today. And he takes a strike from Zambrano. Victor 1-2 on the year. His victory came against the Nationals when the Mets scored 13 runs for him back on the 13th of April. He's gone 8 days since his last start. Mets pushed him back a couple of days in the rotation. Able to do that because of an off day. And a good slider by Zambrano, 0-2.
Well, that's a good pitch by Zambrano. It's a great pitch to throw to Soriano. Arroyo from the Cincinnati Reds, we were talking about him earlier, struck out Soriano on 3 curveballs similar to that. That's a pitch that Zambrano should be able to use against Soriano tonight.
So here he is ahead in the count on Soriano. This is where he's gotten in trouble. And he misses away 1-2. Willie Randolph said before the game, as you look at Nick Johnson on deck, that ultimately performance is what matters in terms of judging your players. And Willie has confidence in Zambrano, but he's not making his pitches right now. And Willie said, and it was a little bit cryptic, but he said, if you have somebody better, you're going to go to him. But right now, Zambrano is the guy, and he's going to keep running him out there because he doesn't feel as though there is anybody better to take that spot, particularly now with Brian Bannister hurt.
1-2 to Soriano. And a good stop by Leduca. 2-2. Here's what Soriano's done against Zambrano. But what Willie was also very quick to say is that Zambrano is not on trial. He doesn't want to put that kind of burden on him that he has to prove himself every time out. And you get the impression that just trying to get Victor focused in the right direction and keep his mental state where it needs to be.
I saw a comment by one of his teammates, and Zambrano said he's not, hasn't got to the point where he is panicking yet.
Hit hard, base hit. Vidro to second will stop there. And so the Nationals have an early threat, first and second and 1 out.
The first base.
Well, here's the Jeep Mets defense. Beltran, of course, back. Good catch on that first drive by Marlon Byrd. And Matsui playing a strong second base since coming back off the disabled list.
Here's Nick Johnson, who's off to a terrific start, 10th in the National League in batting, and hitting for more power than he has in the past. He had a pair of 3-run homers here at Shea when the Nationals were in early in the season. And he's got 2 men aboard here. But you were talking about panic.
Well, Zambrano was saying that he isn't panicking yet, as one of his teammates said maybe he should panic a little bit and be very alert. Right now is a very critical juncture in his career. 30 years old. He's been given a spot in the rotation. Here's your chance to go out and get it, show that you belong there.
And here's a critical spot early in this game with 2 men on and facing a good hitter in Johnson, although Nick is cooled off a little bit. He's 0 for his last 11. And Zambrano might have gotten a break on the call there from Chris Guccione. 1-1.
Well, the one thing that you have to do if you're pitching, but it doesn't matter if it's the first inning, starting pitching, there's outs that you have to get. Are you strong enough mentally? Are you strong enough with a big heart to get those outs?
And he gets ahead on Johnson. 1-2.
Victor Zambrano, when I watch him pitch, his body language is sometimes suspect. Sometimes looks like he gets very frustrated out there. And those are the kind of things you cannot show the other team because they will pounce on it. It's just the nature of the beast this game.
Victor is not generally an animated person. He's got a very calm demeanor about him. As Jose Guillen waits on deck. 1-2 to Johnson. And it's on the inside corner. Strike 3 call. So Zambrano gets a big out as he gets Johnson looking for the second out.
Well, it's this fastball that starts right at the left-hander's hip, comes back over the plate. Good job by Zambrano. Also a good job by Leduca framing that pitch inside.
So here's Guillen, who was at the center of all the controversy here at Shea the first time the Nationals were in, after getting plunked 3 times in 2 days, and wandered out toward the mound, bat in hand, toward Pedro Martinez. And Guillen has really struggled, just 2 for his last 23 and hitting just .237 on the year. 2 out and 2 on in the opening inning. And Zambrano gets another high strike.
Well, there have been some that have said, since Jose Guillen did not get a contract extension, that he's taken that out onto the field at times. And boy, that's not a good way to endear yourself to the new ownership group that ever does come into Washington.
It's supposed to happen this week. So Vidro and Soriano, the base runners, with 2 out. And it's 1-1 to Guillen. Jose Guillen had a terrific year for the Nationals last year, but he has tended to wear out his welcome everywhere he has been, all the way back to his days as a 20-year-old playing for the Pirates. On 1-1, Guillen hits it in the air to center field. Beltran has it lined up, and Zambrano is able to escape trouble in the top of the first inning. A walk, a base hit, and 2 left. We go to the bottom of the first. No score. Mets come up at the bottom of the first against Ramon Ortiz, who's becoming a familiar figure to them over the first month of the season.
Boy, very difficult for a starting pitcher to face a team 3 times in 25 days. I'll tell you, in the World Series in '86, I had to face the Red Sox 3 times in about 12 days. By the 3rd time, they had my number.
Well, the Mets have had Ortiz's number the first 2 times around. He got lit up here at Shea for 6 runs and 10 hits in his first start, and then Pitched a little better 5 days later, but lost both times. And Reyes finds himself quickly in a 2-strike hole.
Well, the thing you like about Ramon Ortiz is that he will go after the hitters. He's very competitive out there. The only problem he does have is changing speed. Sometimes everything is hard, his sinker and his slider.
1-2 to Reyes. Ortiz now 32 years of age. He got about 3 years older all at once a few years ago, as many of the players from Latin America did. Once 9/11 passed and they started scrutinizing those birth certificates and visas a little bit tighter, a number of players gained in age.
I always thought it was amazing that Tony Oliva, when he first came over, he had his brother's birth certificate, which made him older. They found out later in his career that he dropped 3 years off his age.
And there have been players who, you can't sign a player till they're 16. Players who aren't subject to the draft, and players who have tried to be older than they were. Reyes skims one to Vidro, who throws across his body and gets Reyes by a stride, 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. And we'll check out the Chevy Mets lineup. Carlos Delgado has had a lot of success in his career against Ortiz. Mets with their full lineup intact today, with Beltran back at Shea for the first time since he hurt the hamstring. And Kaz Matsui, his first home game of the season. And as you look at Loduca stepping in, Paul's hit in 4 straight games to get his batting average back up over 300. Mets are 7-4 playing at Shea this year. They've done better on the road, going 9-4 thus far. One of Willie Randolph's goals this year was for the team to play better on the road, and that last road trip, even though it ended with a loss in Atlanta, was very important to this team.
It's important. It was the way they played also. Well played games. Good pitching like they've gotten all year long, with some big hits.
On 1-1, Loduca lifts it to center. And Bird is right there. It's a pitcher's win today. Nothing's going to carry very well to center field, and it's 2 away. There you see the flags blowing in from center.
There's the Ford Nationals defense. Soriano, of course, that experiment in left field. He has 3 assists this season, which is tied most among NL outfielders, but that's a little misleading because he suffers out there a little bit. A lot of teams are trying to take extra chances against him.
And that happens a lot. Outfielders who accumulate the most assists aren't the ones with the best arms. They're the guys who people run against the most. Beltran lifts one to right field. Guillen has room. And Ortiz pitches a 1-2-3 opening inning. So he played 1 inning here at Shea. No score. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by ChevyOffers.com, the presenting sponsor of Baseball Night in New York. Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. And Honda, see your Honda dealer and discover the great values now being offered. Brian Schneider takes a strike from Victor Zambrano. Schneider started out the season very slowly. He's just recently gotten his average up over 200, hitting in his last 4 games. To the left side, Reyes with plenty of time against Schneider's speed, and there's 1 away. Speed, lack of speed. He's a catcher.
And a great one at that.
Yes, he is.
One of the best defensive catchers in baseball.
So 1 out and nobody on, and here's the veteran shortstop, Royce Clayton. There's Keith Hernandez's former co-star.
Former employer.
Jerry Seinfeld, big Met fan. Sitting next to George Wallace, noted comedian. Clayton hitting at .259. 2-0. You know, for as many people as come up and talk to Keith about baseball, probably twice as many walk up to him to talk about Seinfeld. It's unbelievable, even now, all these years later. Toward the hole, Reyes with the backhand play. Plants, fires, got him. There's a good play by Jose Reyes. Throwing out Royce Clayton, 2 down.
2 fine plays. He knew on Schneider he had plenty of time. This one, though, he knew he had to get rid of it a lot quicker because of the speed of Royce Clayton. Great for you guys at home, you young guys, when you backhand the ball in the hole, keep your glove on the ground. You can always move it up, never can move it down quick enough.
So 2 up and 2 quickly set aside. And now the number 8 hitter Damian Jackson filling in at third base tonight. Ryan Zimmerman is away from the Nationals just for this game. Nationals are playing rather short. They've got Zimmerman away at his grandmother's funeral. They've got Ryan Church, who's got the stomach flu and probably can't play. And they're down a reliever as well as Jackson hits one to center field. And this is going to be a very easy inning for Victor Zambrano. He gets through it with just 7 pitches and gets the Nationals out 1-2-3. We go to the bottom of the second at Shea with no score. Now the most advanced traffic information is just a click away with WB11.com's Commuter Cast. Get real-time traffic updates on your computer every weekday afternoon at 4. Log on to WB11.com for Commuter Cast. We go to the bottom of the second at Shea. Carlos Delgado, who's hit a bit of a skid the last few days. And it's inside from Ortiz. Carlos's average falling under 300. He's 0 for his last 13.
Well, after seeing that first pitch inside, that's one of the reasons for the skids. The pitchers have done a better job of getting inside on Carlos Delgado.
Carlos has owned Ramon Ortiz during their careers. 5 home runs against Ortiz in just 33 at bats. 2-1.
So the hitter sends a limo to get you when you come in from the airport, right? He sends a limo for Ortiz.
There's David Wright on deck. And Carlos has had only 2 other pitchers he's hit more home runs against, as he fouls one off Schneider and back. He has 7 off Jamie Moyer and 7 off Jorge Sosa. He has 7 against Sosa in just 27 at bats. We saw that earlier this year. And Sosa faced the Mets, pitching for the Braves. Gets tied up, but he can't hold the swing, and Delgado down on strikes. Third base umpire Tim Timmons with the call, and Ortiz has his first strikeout.
Oh, fine pitch from Ortiz that slattered down and in. There's one spot that Carlos does not want to see that pitch, is that slider down and in. He tries to hold it back, but I think you see the replay. You can tell the bat's got through the zone.
So 1 out and nobody on. You look at Ramon Ortiz and his stature and his delivery, and every time you smile when he throws the ball, because he wants so much to be Pedro Martinez. 1-0 to Wright. Pedro was his hero growing up. As it turns out, he's only 2 years younger than Pedro. And Wright takes a strike. 1-1.
Well, those guys that are smaller in stature and skinnier have to stick together. Not that many of them around, especially right-handers.
And Wright hits one to right center. And Guillen is right there to grab it 2 away. So David continues to struggle. He's now hitless in his last 8 at bats. 2 out and nobody on for Cliff Floyd. Now, Cliff's batting average will tell you that he's struggling. But if you watch him every day, he's struggling to get hits. He's not necessarily struggling hitting.
His swing has looked much finer. Before the game, he had extra hitting today off Willie Randolph, and it was just one rocket ship after another out of the ballpark. So he's getting close, and I'm sure he's happy it's May.
And here's a sign that tells you that things are not going that badly for Cliff. Cliff has now gone 49 straight plate appearances without striking out, which is the longest streak of his career without a strikeout. 1-1 to Cliff. So what does that tell you?
Well, it tells you right now that he's making contact, that he's seeing the ball, he's on the ball. And I think for power hitters, the big thing is when they're swinging at balls out of the strike zone. Obviously, with this streak, Cliff is not doing that.
And he got a lucky hit his last time up yesterday, so maybe that's a step in the right direction. Chopped one off the plate in the 9th inning in Atlanta yesterday and got an infield hit as Xavier Nady waits to hit next. 2-1. Floyd takes low and inside, so Ortiz really working those left-hand hitters in.
You have to if you're going to get this Met lineup out. Ortiz doing a good job so far. It's funny that Cliff Floyd last year started out in April batting .366 and then hit 200 in May. Maybe it'll flip-flop this year for him.
Fouls one off, 3-2. Floyd hit one of the longest home runs ever in San Francisco, way back in McCovey Cove past the kayaks. But he's got only 2 home runs on the season through his first 77 at bats. He hit this one to right field, but he got under it. And Guillen has it, and the Mets are down 1-2-3. So Ortiz, who struggled in his first 2 starts against the Mets, has retired the first 6. We go to the 3rd, no score. The Mets Ticket Marketplace is the easiest and best way to access premium seat locations at Shea. Sign up for your membership now at Mets.com. Members can purchase available prime club and box seats for single games directly from the Mets Ticket Marketplace. For more info, visit Mets.com today. Ramon Ortiz leading off for the Nationals in the 3rd. And I'm not sure what that motion was bailing out, but he took a strike 1-1.
Well, when your career average is under 100, that's usually what you're doing, bailing out all the time.
Zambrano trying to get himself into some kind of a rhythm. He's retired 5 in a row after giving up a walk and a base hit in the first. Three and one. You know, I talked to Willie today about the work that he did with Cliff Floyd that you mentioned earlier, just trying to impart some of his experiences of having gone through batting slumps. And I said, as a position player who's a manager, can you talk to pitchers the same way when they're slumping? 3-2 to Ortiz, and he said, well, it's a little different, he said, but mostly I can be encouraging. I can get in their face and tell them to throw strikes. To third, and Wright guns down Ortiz, 1 away. 1 out and nobody on, and Marlon Byrd will come up. But it's interesting because, you know, you were a pitcher, and I don't know, did you ever have a manager who was a former pitcher? I don't think so.
No, I haven't. And most position players that are managers really don't have a lot of time for pitchers. They just concentrate on the everyday players. I think Willie Randolph is one of the new breed, though, that tries to say, hey, I've been through some slumps, I've been through some bad times, you know, you're going to come out of it, just you know, strike one, that kind of stuff. But most managers leave pitchers alone. They always call them the different breed, right?
Marlon Byrd takes the strike. It's fascinating because really, and we've talked about this before, a baseball team, much like a football team, is really 2 different teams. You've got your pitchers and you've got your position players, and they just happen to wear the same uniforms. And there are very few former pitchers who've been successful managers. Tommy Lasorda, Dallas Green, but there haven't been all that many.
Well, I think it's a difficult one to have the respect of your everyday players if you did not suit it up every day. I think it's hard for them to respect you the way probably a manager should be, should be accepted in that kind of way. But usually it's the everyday player, and of course great everyday players like Frank Robinson and a lot of catchers also.
Base hit for Byrd, so he's 1 for 2, and Ryan Church sitting with the stomach flu, and Marlon Byrd may turn into Lou Gehrig to Church's Wally Pipp if he keeps going the way he's going. 1 out and 1 on, and Jose Vidro coming up. Vidro drew a walk his first time up. Strike 1 to Vidro. You know, if you make the comparison between a baseball team and a football team, pitchers versus position players, offense versus defense, in football you've got the field goal kicker who nobody can coach. In baseball you have the knuckleball pitcher.
That's right.
Who nobody knows how to coach.
No one knows how to coach, and everyone leaves alone.
Oh, and 1 to Vidro, and he lifted foul.
Remember when I was in Texas in spring training in '82, Charlie Huff was with the Rangers, and literally he would warm up before the game. He would toss the ball back and forth 20 to 30 times, and he was ready to go. He didn't even practice throwing his knuckler.
I remember talking to Jim Leland when he had Tim Wakefield when he first came up with the Pirates, and he said, I don't know when to take him out of the game. He's not going to be tired.
He's not sweating.
Just off the corner to Vidro, 1 and 2. So ultimately, being a manager, and I think that fans sometimes look at this in a different way. Fans look at moves. That's about 10% of what a manager does. 90% is managing people and motivating them. Bird was almost leading the wrong way.
Had Bird leading the wrong way. I think not only is it motivating your everyday players, getting them enough playing time so they can be successful, but the most important job for any manager is managing your pitching staff, making sure that relievers aren't overused and that starters get their work. And that's one of the toughest things to do, I think, for a manager.
On 1-2, Vidro taps one slowly. Matsui will have to go to first, and that's the second out as Bird moves up to second. Delgado made a move toward that ball and then backed away, leaving it for Matsui. So 2 out, Bird now at second, and here's Soriano, who has one of the 2 hits off Zambrano. Scoreless game as we play in the third. It's very odd. Mets are starting a homestand tonight after a very successful road trip, in first place 6 games to the good. There is no buzz in this ballpark tonight. It's very, very odd. Ball 1 to Soriano.
Usually you expect after you come after a nice road trip like that, you're going to come back to the fans that are excited. First place team.
It's not like the place is empty. There are a lot of people here.
Yeah.
There's just not that energy that you would have expected. One and one to Soriano.
I do have to say, though, part of being a successful player in the 80s, here's Soriano again. That slider from Zambrano had a lot to do with the fans. To be able to play during that time and come every night, it was 45,000 plus, and there was that buzz. Boy, what a great place to work.
And we've already heard that buzz this season. Just missed 2-1 to Soriano. But for some reason it's not here, at least not yet. Maybe it would take the Mets getting something going. See how quiet? 2-1 to Soriano. And now he's behind 3-1. First base is open, but you got a tough left-hand hitter, Nick Johnson, waiting on deck.
Yeah, pick your poison here. Don't want to groove fastball to Soriano, a great fastball hitter.
Soriano is now 15 for 35 in his career against Zambrano. It's a .429 batting average. So you can understand why Zambrano's a little wary here. On 3-1, Soriano takes a strike. He threw him a slider on 3-1.
Not only are you wary, but Victor knows that he's been victimized by the home run ball lately. He does not want to give up another one. And this pitch runs all the way across the plate. Even as a pitcher, I'd have to say that's pretty high in the strike zone, or out of the strike zone.
Well, Guccione's given some high strikes tonight. 3-2 to Soriano. Gets him with a slider. Loduca puts on the tag, and the inning is over. Zambrano with his second strikeout, and he's through 3. We go to the bottom of the third with no score. Bottom of the third at Shea. Xavier Nady, after a day off yesterday, his first of the season, takes ball 1. Nady at .311, 6 homers, 11 driven in. And he drives one to right center field. Chased by Bird, but he won't get it till the warning track and then falls down. And Nady in at second base with a leadoff double. The Mets have their first base runner of the game. Now, Willie Randolph said that Nady needed a day off, and he comes back and doubles his first time up.
Well, I know that a lot of thought has gone into that when Nady hits the ball the other way, that's the best way for him to stay on it. Drove that ball to right center. Bird did a fine job of trying to track that down, trying to hold him to a double, which he did.
I'll need a Taylor after that play.
Little blowout there.
As baggy as players wear their pants today, how do they ever rip them?
That's right.
That's how they rip them.
Bird is a fine center fielder, though. cover a lot of ground.
Well, here's Kaz Matsui, his first home game of the season. Joined the Mets on the road and had a terrific trip. Hit in his first 8 games before going hitless yesterday. And he takes a strike. Now here's a situation. Runner at second with nobody out and the pitcher on deck. What's the approach?
Well, the approach is you would think if you had a hitter on deck, you might be bunting Matsui in this place, but got to give the 8th place hitter Matsui a chance to get him the third. But I think you're trying to look for a hit here.
So it's more trying to drive in the run than it is trying to move him over.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly want to hit the ball to the right side, but you're looking for a hit because all you're doing really, if you get him to third, maybe Zambrano have a hard time putting the ball in play, and you put it all on your number 1 hitter. But Matsui should be trying to drive him in.
But now he's in a 2-strike hole. And Schneider's going to go out and talk to Ortiz. Last year, the home run ball really plagued Ramon Ortiz. Of course, he was pitching in Cincinnati.
That is just a bandbox, that ballpark. That and Philadelphia, I think, are the 2 worst.
They've increased the dimensions a little bit in Philadelphia in left field.
Like see Soriano in left field, very shallow. Don't always want a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience to be that shallow because it's easier to come in on a ball than it is to go back on one.
And Matsui pops it up shallow in left. And Soriano well placed, 1 away. So 1 down. Nady's still at second, and here's Zambrano looking for his first hit of the year. There you see his lifetime numbers. He's gone 0 for 4 this season. Victor fancies himself a hitter.
Well, any pitcher that's switch hitting thinks that he's a hitter, but also Victor, we've seen him in some of these circumstances. He'll lay a bunt down once in a while, and signed, of course, as an infielder by the Yankees.
And it gets away from Schneider, and Nady will go to third. Well, Brian Schneider generally very sure-handed back there.
Schneider catches in a way, it's almost like he uses his glove as tweezers and tries to frame that low pitch to get his pitcher a strike, but played it too close and it bounced off his glove for a pass ball.
So now let's see whether Willie Randolph would be inclined to squeeze. This is not a play that Willie has used often as a manager. Ortiz out of the windup. Ripped but foul. 1-1 to Zambrano. If you're going to squeeze, having a pitcher pitch out of the windup is a huge advantage for that runner at third getting the break.
Yeah, you don't have to make such a good bunt. You'll be almost home.
And that one hits Zambrano on the leg. It's a dead ball, so Nady has to go back to third, but Zambrano limping a bit as he moves down toward first, and Ray Ramirez, the trainer, will come out for a look.
Well, let's hope this is not a bad break. He's pitched 3 scoreless innings, and now, while squaring around the bunt, takes this ball right off the back of the foot.
Willie Randolph out to join the conversation along with Sandy Alomar. That was actually a bad break for the Mets, because if he got his foot out of the way and it had been a wild pitch, the run would have scored. Victor testing it out. It's only the second batter Ortiz has hit this year. And while the Mets group at first base, the Expos group at the mound, Randy St. Clair, the pitching coach out there. Did I say Expos? It's going to happen at least 20 times a season. Nationals, of course, former Expos. Well, maybe if they have permanent ownership in place, which they're supposed to by the end of this week.
Exactly. You can call them whatever you want until they have an owner.
That's right. Right now they're the MLB orphans.
That's right.
And they have been for 5 years. Well, now it's first and third and 1 out. Zambrano appears to be all right, and Reyes steps in. And he fouls the first pitch off. And that's not a bad idea by Reyes. You've had Ortiz standing around during the delay, figuring he's just going to try and get one over.
Well, Randy St. Clair out there, one of his philosophies, Randy St. Clair asked him, he just believes in that first pitch strike. He preaches it to his pitchers all the time.
And Ortiz just went to his mouth while on the mound, and Chris Guccione calls that a ball. Now, a lot of times on these cooler nights with the wind blowing, they'll allow the pitchers to blow on their hand. But where's the dividing line?
Well,
I guess that's it.
That's it. And plus, a veteran should never make that mistake. He's been around way too long to let that happen.
So now it's 1-1 to Reyes. And ball 2, 2-1. Paul LaDuca on deck. Reyes has already driven in 12 runs this year out of the leadoff spot.
Well,
Hit at 357 with runners in scoring position.
Well, in this situation, you're looking to get the strikeout because the ground ball does not ensure you a double play with the speed of Reyes.
On 2-1, Reyes bounces one foul. And so Ortiz, who has struck out only 1 and has fanned only 9 in 25 innings this year, in a position where he'd love to get a strikeout, with Nady at third and Zambrano at first and 1 out. No score. We're in the bottom of the third. Mets are facing Ramon Ortiz for the 3rd time in the first 25 games of the season. It's the first time in Mets history they've faced a pitcher that often this early in the season. And Reyes takes one wide, 3-2.
Which tells you and I what a strange schedule this season.
It really is. The Mets' 3rd series with the Nationals. They'll play their 3rd series with the Braves this weekend, and they still haven't seen the Phillies.
You see Brian Schneider now giving the signals whether he's going to throw through on a strikeout or fake the third, maybe throw the ball down to third.
You don't need to send Zambrano here now with Reyes' speed. You would only send him to try and stay out of the double play. On 3-2, Reyes swings and misses at the slider, and there's a huge strikeout for Ortiz, his 2nd of the night.
Well, a 2-1 pitch. Reyes chased the ball out of the strike zone, and here on 3-2, believe that ball's out of the strike zone also, swinging through a kind of a hanging slider on the outside part of the plate.
So 2 out. Mets have been the best in baseball in the early season at driving in runners with 2 outs. And LaDuca will try and keep that up. See the league average 231. Mets at 287. That's quite a differential. And LaDuca takes ball 1.
Well, one of the reasons is Paul LaDuca, also just a very, very good hitter with 2 strikes. So is David Wright, one of the best on the team.
That's got a leadoff double from Nady, trying not to bypass this opportunity here in the 3rd. 1st and 3rd and 2 out. LaDuca to 3rd. And Jackson goes to 2nd for the force, and Ortiz able to wriggle out of trouble in the bottom of the 3rd. We go to the 4th at Shea, still no score. We go to the 4th inning at Shea. Time for the Aflac trivia question. In the last 20 years, who's the only Mets pitcher to begin the season with 4 starts of 5 innings or fewer?
Oh, God, I hope I'm not this question.
Victor Zambrano would join that company if he went 5 or less today.
Well, can I tell you, he looks sharp so far. Hopefully getting hit by that ball in the foot will not affect him, but it seems like he's really being a little more aggressive. He's using his fastball and his slider, changeup just very occasionally. His first couple of starts, he was really using that changeup a lot early in the game.
It wasn't you, was it?
I hope not.
Nick Johnson leads off. Actually, I peeked. I saw who it was. Takes a strike, and it was a pretty good pitch.
He's got a very simple motion, kind of rock back and through. Doesn't put a lot of extra exertion on the ball, but has a fine arm, of course.
And Johnson takes the slider, 1-1.
I think I know who the answer is too, and it's you said a very fine pitcher and someone you would never think would be the answer to that question.
I will let the suspense grow for a little while. 1-1 to Nick, and it's 2-1.
I'll try not to be like Keith and just blurt out the answer straight away.
Zambrano has struck out 2, including Johnson looking in the 1st inning. There's a big strikeout for Zambrano. If he ends up pitching a good game tonight, that strikeout in the first inning will be one that he'll look back on. At 2 on and 1 out, and Johnson at the plate, and put a 2-seamer in a good spot on the inside corner to get him. But he walks Johnson here, and the Nationals have a leadoff base run. Second walk given up by Zambrano. First time the Nationals have had the leadoff man on. You were talking before, Ronnie, about infielders keeping their gloves on the ground.
Well, how I was taught, I was a former shortstop 100 years ago, but when you are going after the ball, you got to make sure that you keep that glove down on the ground, and as you're running, as you're getting to the ball, just keep it there. If the ball comes up, that's easy to get to the ball.
Guillen lines one foul.
If you have the glove above the ground and the ball goes down, it's very difficult. You end up snatching at it, which means you have really kind of rock hard hands. Can't make that nice soft play.
They always talk about infielders fielding balls with soft hands. Oh, and 1 to Guillen, who flied to center his first trip. And he takes it high. You know, infielders sometimes use a flat paddle during training just to teach them how to keep their hands soft.
Keep their hands soft and how to use 2 hands, because it's going to hit the paddle. Only way to keep it on there is to use that extra hand to cradle it.
On 1-1, Guillen takes a strike. 1-2.
Well, Guillen did not like this call. High changeup from Zambrano that really dipped a lot at the end of the strike zone, probably why you got the call.
Well, everything up in the zone has been a strike tonight with Chris Guccione. It's a very different strike zone than the one we saw yesterday in Atlanta.
What, the no strike zone, you mean, yesterday?
Alfonso Marquez was tough for the pitchers, that's for sure. This is really a pitcher's kind of night. You've got an umpire calling high strikes and a wind blowing in from center field. There's that wind blowing straight in. Not necessarily the most comfortable for the fans, but great for the pitchers. 2-2 to Guillen, with Johnson at first and nobody on. No score in the 4th. It's been a rough go for the Nationals. Or last year, they got off to such a terrific start in their first year after moving from Montreal. It was really a magical first half.
They were 50-31 for the first 81 games and 31-50 at the end.
And they won all those close games early in the season. Great bullpen. 3-2 now to Guillen. But this year, the Nationals are 2-9 in games decided by 1 or 2 runs. It's been very difficult for Frank Robinson to get the kind of bullpen that he had last year when they got a lead, and they've had very few leads lately. 3-2 now to Guillen. Johnson runs, and Guillen strikes out. LaDuca's throw on a hop, not in time. Stolen base for Nick Johnson, his 3rd of the year. So Guillen goes down swinging. That's the 3rd strikeout for Zambrano.
3-2 changeup from Victor Zambrano. The hard part for Paul LaDuca there was he couldn't come out of his crouch early enough to throw Johnson out, because he wants to stay back and make sure he gets that call for his pitcher.
So now runner in scoring position with 1 out, and Brian Schneider the batter. Schneider grounded to short his first time, and he takes a changeup for a strike. So Zambrano's starting to mix in that changeup now.
All fastball sliders in the first 3 innings, and now using that changeup to not only strike out Guillen, but started Brian Schneider with the first pitch with a changeup.
It looks like Victor's starting to gain a little in confidence, get a little rhythm going.
He can put together, string some outs together. He always has been. It's that big inning that hurts him.
Schneider lines one past Zambrano and into center field. Johnson being waved around. Beltran with a throw to the plate. It comes up short, and now they've got Schneider in a rundown. And Reyes will put on the tag, but the Nationals take a 1-0 lead as Johnson scores on the RBI single by Brian Schneider, and it's 1-0 Washington.
Well, this ball's up in the strike zone. Schneider has been swinging the bat better lately. 2 RBIs in yesterday's game against the Cardinals. Gets this ball. Beltran does a nice job of making sure he hits the cutoff man. I don't think they would have had Johnson anyway. And then picture perfect for the rundown from Delgado to Jose Reyes.
So 2 out and nobody on with a run in. 1-0 Washington. Here's Royce Clayton. And he takes ball 1.
Well, Schneider, you could sometimes tell the center fielder comes up throwing, and he looks like he's going to really fire it to home, and that's what Beltran looked like, but he got on top of it a little bit and bounced it into Delgado.
2-0. Schneider misread it just a little bit.
And then once he's in a rundown, he's done.
He didn't make much of an effort to get out of that rundown. And Clayton lifts one to right. Wind will blow it toward the line for Nady. And the side retired. But the Nationals take advantage of a leadoff walk and score the first run of the game on Schneider's hit. Beltran, Delgado, and Wright coming up for the Mets. It's 1-0 Washington. Let's check out the answer to our Aflac trivia question. In the last 20 years, the only Met pitcher to start the season with 4 starts of 5 innings or fewer, David Cone, in his comeback season of 2003. One and 0 to Beltran, who flied to right his first time up, and Ortiz blows a fastball by him 1-1.
Well, this fastball upstairs, that's not where Ortiz wants to be. Both Beltran and Floyd just missed hitting it on the nose on their first time up. Beltran flying out to center field.
Ortiz working with a lead for the first time. He's looking for his first win of the year. He's 0-3. And it's 2-1 to Beltran. The Nationals are a little strapped for starting pitching these days. Livan Hernandez has not pitched as well as they would like their staff ace to pitch. John Patterson considered their number 2 starters on the disabled list, and it falls down from there.
Well, they traded Zach Day away last year and now have claimed him off waivers. He's one of the starters now.
And there's ball 4, and Beltran draws a leadoff walk. Their first walk given up by Ortiz. Well, if Zach Day were to pitch in this series, it would be a whole different story, because Zach Day can throw out his glove to the mound and pitch a shutout against the Mets.
Isn't it funny how some teams you just have their number? It was Atlanta Braves for me when I played with the Mets. Just it didn't matter what happened, I'd always seem to get a win. Either I'd pitch poorly, but we'd score 10. I'd pitch well and just beat them by a run.
The Mets have had a few of those guys over the years. Mike Krukow, Randy Tomlin, Zach Day, pitchers who were not great. They were good against everybody else, but just were world beaters against the Mets. Here's Delgado, tries to hold up. Did he go on that one? Nope. This time he gets a pass. Struck out in a check swing his first time up.
Well, again, he goes back to well with that slider down and in, but Delgado, the cagey veteran hitter that he is, the more he sees that pitch, the less he's going to offer at it.
Beltran at first. And you wonder whether he feels confident enough to even think about a stolen base. This is his 3rd game back, and Carlos said when he returned to the lineup on Saturday that the mental hurdle was the most important in terms of letting it all hang out. And even after the game yesterday, he said he still has not run 100% without thinking, and that's where he needs to get to. Two and 0 to Delgado.
It's interesting about injuries, how some players deal with it differently, as Randy St. Clair is coming out to mound to talk to Ortiz.
There's David Wright on deck, and there's Randy St. Clair.
But it's funny how some players can play better when they're injured, because they kind of relax and calm down and try to just put the ball in play and end up getting some hits. But I think the mental part of it for Carlos has to stem from last year. Playing all those games with the bad quadricep, and he just wants to make sure he's 100% this year for the games he plays.
Well, last year he hurt the quad originally in Washington around May 1st and played with it for 3 weeks before he really hurt it worse at Yankee Stadium, and it really cost him a good 2 months in terms of having that leg 100%, and it's only natural that he'd have trepidations about either re-injuring it or aggravating it by running hard. 2-1 to Delgado. Carlos now 0 for his last 14 and trying to fight his way out of this skid. Popped up. Long run for Soriano. And he'll watch it go into the crowd. 2-2 to Delgado. Everything that goes in the air is getting blown back toward the stands.
Oh, that ball off the bat of Delgado was right to Soriano. Going to be an easy play, and the wind just pushed it right into the stands. That's just a pop up to left field if there isn't any wind.
Seems like the wind has been blowing in for the entire month of April and now into May. Mets left here a week and a half ago with the wind blowing in. They get home and it's still blowing. 2-2 to Delgado with nobody out. Mets down by a run in the fourth. Drive to left center. Soriano gets over there. And Beltran back to first. Well, Delgado hitting it hard the other way, and Soriano equal to it, one away.
Well, good job of hitting by Delgado, going the other way on this fastball away. But equally fine play by Alfonso Soriano, going on that ball, back on that ball very well. Took a nice path to it also.
Now, for all the talk about Soriano's move out there and his reluctance to go, he's a great athlete. There's no reason why he shouldn't be successful as an outfielder. The one thing they're trying to get him to do is to throw like an outfielder. And that's going to take some unlearning. Here's David Wright, 1 out and 1 on.
Well, I know what you're saying, Gary. When you're an infielder, you're taught how to throw that little short arm. Soriano, one of those players that threw sidearm as a second baseman. Now they want him to go out there and throw overhand. And how you do that is you play long toss every day, trying to work on those mechanics.
Wright gets crowded, 1-1. Cliff Floyd waiting on deck. Wright now hitless in his last 8 at bats. His average down to an even 300.
If you're someone who's played outfield all his life, like Carlos Beltran, who has a fine throwing arm, you want to throw over the top because you want that ball to carry. You want that backspin on the ball. If you throw sidearm, it's just going to tail or sink, which is not a good thing.
Two and 1 the count to Wright. Which of course begs the question, why then don't infielders throw overhand?
Well, it's easier to get rid of the ball quicker if you throw sidearm. But sometimes, just like there's pitchers who throw sidearm, sometimes it's a comfortability factor. You grow up throwing that way.
On 2 and 1, Wright hits one to left. And Soriano toward the line. 2 away. So Soriano getting tested here in the fourth. 2 out, Beltran still at first. And here is Floyd, who flied to right his first time up.
He flew out to right, but he just missed that pitch from Ortiz, so still seeing the ball well.
Mets have had only 3 base runners against Ortiz. Nady doubled and Zambrano was hit by a pitch in the third. Beltran walked leading off here in the fourth, so the Mets have gotten very little going against Ortiz, facing him for the 3rd time. 1-0 to Floyd.
There's an infielder's glove right there. You can see the difference in length and size. You'll see some outfielders almost use like a softball type of glove.
1-1 to Floyd. Of course, those infielders need the smaller gloves to get the ball out quicker.
the ball out quicker. I used to like a smaller glove even when I pitched. And every spring training, I'd get my new glove and hand it to Buddy Harrelson and say, Buddy, break it in, because he was the best at breaking those gloves in.
On the inside corner to Floyd, 1-2. Of course, the guys with the smallest gloves on the field are the second basemen. They sometimes use what look like little league gloves. There's Vidro's glove. These little 11.5-inch gloves, 12-inch gloves. Get that ball in and out on a double play. Lenny Dykstra used to use a glove that looked like it was bigger than he was in center field.
That's right. Nails. I remember when I was younger that everyone wanted to copy Joe Morgan, the fine second baseman of the Cincinnati Reds. He had one of the smallest gloves in the history of the game.
1-2 to Floyd with Beltran at first, and Cliff fouls it off. Now, I didn't really get to see Bill Mazeroski play till right at the end of his career. Mazeroski was acknowledged by many as the greatest defensive second baseman ever, and he had a tiny little glove, and like many second basemen, he wouldn't actually catch the ball in a double play. He'd let the ball hit the glove and bounce out into his bare hand, which is just phenomenal when you think about it, with runners bearing down on you. To the middle, off the glove of the diving Clayton. Beltran will try for third, and he'll make it without a throw. Now, Clayton was playing up the middle and almost had a chance to make a tremendous play, but just couldn't snag it.
Ramon Ortiz incoming. Get out of the way. This ball goes right over his head. Fine try by Clayton. But he took a little speed off that, which allowed Carlos Beltran to get to third base. Just gets a piece of it. Takes some of the speed off. Carlos really just coasted into third base. And I think you're right. Beltran is running about 3/4 when you watch him out there.
So Floyd has a base hit, the Mets' second of the game, and for the second straight inning, the Mets have runners at first and third.
See, he thought it might be caught, but that's just cruise control for Carlos Beltran with the speed he has.
Nady doubled to right center his first time up, and he takes high from Ortiz. Thing about Beltran, though, when you watch him run, even if he's going full speed, he's got such a graceful gait, he looks like he's cruising. Kind of like Kevin McReynolds used to be.
Kevin McReynolds was like that. I remember old Met fans might remember Stanley Jefferson and Herm Winningham, two guys who had beautiful gaits while running.
One and 0 to Nady. And Ortiz behind 2-0. Nady coming back from his day off yesterday. This has not been a good situation for Nady. 2 outs and runners in scoring position. But looking to pick up Beltran from third with the tying run. Mets down 1-0, bottom of the fourth. On 2-0, Nady ignores, and it's 3-0. And you wonder what's Ortiz's mindset here.
When you're 2-0 and you throw a slider to Xavier Nady, it's telling the hitter right there that I do not want you. If you're going to get yourself out by swinging at balls in the dirt, then you can get yourself out. But if not, I'm going to face Matsui instead.
Well, Matsui might be up with the bases loaded momentarily. And there's ball 4. So a pitch around to Nady loads the bases. Now Matsui had a very good road trip, but he had a couple of bases loaded situations where he did not look good. Struck out in San Diego on a pitch that was up and out of the strike zone, and then yesterday, late in the ball game, flied out against Chris Rietsma with the bases loaded, with the Mets trying to come back.
I remember when I used to have the bases loaded, I used to always try to remind myself to calm myself down that the hitter's anxious too, that the hitter's nervous also, and try to use that against him.
So Matsui will try and come through in this bases loaded situation with 2 down. Guy's fly to left his first time up today. In the air to right center, playable. And Guillen is there. And Matsui retired, and Ortiz gets himself out of another jam. A hit, 2 walks, and 3 left. We go to the 5th, 1-0. Now the Mets have bypassed a couple of opportunities the last 2 innings against Ramon Ortiz. And so Zambrano still finds himself down 1-0 as he takes the mound for the 5th.
Well, Cliff Floyd is going to come out of it because he's a fine hitter, and one of the reasons he's going to come out of it is a swing like that. Very level, very controlled, not a lot of movement in his body or swing, just really getting the bat to the ball. And when he's hitting well, he does that great.
Keith would have loved that swing.
He would have.
That's the kind he's always talking about. Here's Damian Jackson taking a strike from Zambrano.
Well, I remember watching Keith in batting practice. He would just work on staying level and just spraying line drives, not ever worrying about hitting a home run in batting practice. Always just spraying line drives over the shortstop's head, over the second baseman's head.
1-1 to Jackson. Damian Jackson filling in for Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman has had a strange start. He's been kind of up and kind of down in his rookie year. 2-1 the count.
Oh, that's going to happen. I think watching him at the last month last year, he's going to be a fine player, great defensive third baseman. But right now, you know, they're throwing some balls out of the strike zone, so he has a high strikeout count, but he also has had some production.
Driven in 17 runs. Not bad for his first month. Jackson fouls it off 2-2. Zimmerman should be back tomorrow. His grandmother passed away in Michigan, and he went to be with his family there. He's from Virginia, but grandma was in Michigan. So the Nationals hope to have Zimmerman back tomorrow. We mentioned also they're down a reliever, Felix Rodriguez. You remember was ejected here at Shea, and that one hit right back through Zambrano, who was fortunate to get out of the way. And Jackson has a base hit. But Felix Rodriguez dropped the appeal of his 3-game suspension, and he's sitting out starting today.
Well, good swing too by Damian Jackson. Well, hasn't had too many good swings in this early part of the season, but he's one of those players that when you're a good team, you like a guy like Damian Jackson on your team. He can play a lot of roles, just like Chris Woodward for the Mets.
Ortiz up there to bunt. Jackson runs. Loduca with the throw, and Jackson's a dead duck at second base. 2-6 on the caught stealing, one away.
Well, Frank Robinson thinking that Zambrano's going to go throw a strike on a first pitch when the pitcher's bunting, but he did not. Wildness sometimes can work to your advantage. Ball out of the strike zone made it easy for Loduca to make that throw. Easy play on Jackson at second.
Explain to me what the point is of a run and bunt play.
I don't know the point. I don't like the play.
Ortiz takes a strike. I mean, in a perfect situation, if you get a bunt down, maybe the runner winds up at third. But that's got to take absolutely perfect execution for that to happen.
And a mistake by the defensive team. So I think the run and bunt is something you got to be able to trust your pitcher is going to get the guy over, play it right. You got a hot hitter and Marlon Byrd behind Ortiz.
I wonder whether Jackson missed a sign in running on that pitch, or just used some bad judgment running on his own.
You know, I saw Frank Robinson managed 155 games last year. Did not see him use that once, so I tend to believe in your analysis there, Gary. Probably missed a sign.
On 2-2, Ortiz swings and misses, and Zambrano has his 4th strikeout. So 2 out and nobody on. In 2006, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York will donate $25 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. There you see 196 strikeouts for the year, including Zambrano's 4 tonight. So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Marlon Byrd, who has fly to center and single to left. And Zambrano's fastball rides in for a strike. When we talk about Zambrano and the movement on his pitches, when he's right and throwing that sinker like that, that's a tough pitch to hit.
Well, you get both lanes working. You can throw the ball down the middle, and it comes down and in on the right-handed hitters. And then with that slider, it starts in the same place and goes down and away. Get a hitter really on his back foot.
1-2 to Byrd. Marlon Byrd, former Philadelphia Philly. He was a full-time player there, but lost his job. Wound up with the Nationals last year in the trade for Andy Chavez. Chavez now a Met. Jose Vidro on deck. Here's Endy, who hit his first home run as a Met yesterday, filling in right field. 1-2 to Bird, and Zambrano misses with a slider. 2-2. The Nationals have lost 7 of their last 8. They won a game in St. Louis over the weekend, then dropped the last 2 of that series, in part because of the heroics of Albert Pujols. Toward the middle, Reyes with a long way to go, can't get it, and Bird has his second hit. Reyes shaded over toward the hole, and even had he gotten to that ball, there's little chance he was going to be able to throw out Bird. So a 2-out single for Bird. And now here's Vidro, who's walked and grounded out. Here you see the pitch count for Zambrano, which, the way he's been going, is not unreasonable at all. Ball 1 to Vidro.
One thing at a time. Worry about pitch count next time. Just the effort and the results so far tonight are what you're worried about with Zambrano.
No, I'm saying this is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been throwing 110 pitches in 5 innings in prior starts.
See, LaDuca's going out to talk to Zambrano. We've talked about it many times before. He has some arm angle issues where sometimes he drops down a little bit, and you can see that ball, when it runs that far, that's not a good pitch. Mel Stottlemyre used to always say, if you can see the run in your ball, it's too big. The hitters can see it also.
Vidro to center field. The wind blowing in, so Beltran has room, and he has it. On another night, that's a home run. But with the wind blowing straight in, it stayed in for Beltran, and the inning is over. Still 1-0 Washington.
With a Chevrolet Baseball Night New York update, Johnny Damon, making his first appearance as a member of the Yankees in Boston, tips the cap upon his first at bat. Johnny Damon and the Yankees leading 3-1 in the 4th. Back to Gary.
I think it was inevitable that Damon was going to get a great reception his first time up. What he gets after that is a whole different story.
Yeah.
Victor Zambrano leads off the home 5th inning and takes it high. Did you ever come back to play at Shea after you were a Met?
I never did, and I really regretted it. I always wanted to pitch one more season with the Mets. Just too bad that I was done by then, and because I had 99 wins as a Met, I always wanted to come back and see if I could get one more win. 100 would have been a nice number.
So you went to the Expos for what, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
2 weeks, and pitched so poorly they couldn't wait to get rid of me there. So then they shipped me off to Oakland, where I performed a lot better.
So if you'd stayed around with the Expos for a little while, you probably would have gotten a return performance, get a chance to tip your cap.
That would have been nice.
The way Damon did tonight, the way Julio Franco did in Atlanta, that was just a great moment with Franco in front of those Braves fans who just gave him a great ovation the other night. 2-0 to Zambrano. And, you know, Julio said, unless I win a World Series, this was the greatest moment of my career. I thought that was incredibly heartwarming to hear. 2-2 to Zambrano.
Well, they had a beautiful video presentation of Julio Franco and his entire career and the home runs he hit with the different teams from Cleveland to Philadelphia. It was pretty moving. It was fun to watch.
Here tonight on the video board, and Zambrano hits one to right center. Bird grabs it for the out. So Ortiz getting fly ball out after fly ball out. 1 out in the home 5th inning. As we check out our Hyundai in-game box score, not a whole lot going on. Mets with only 2 hits tonight. Nady's double in the 3rd, and Floyd's 2-out single in the 4th. And that's been it against Ortiz, whom the Mets hit pretty well the first 2 times they faced him this year. There's Reyes, who's 0 for 2. Thinks about a bunt. Takes ball 1.
Interesting the way that Ortiz is pitching. It's almost like how the Mets pitchers pitched at RFK when they went there for the first time. Just throw the ball on the outside part of the strike zone and let the hitters hit it as far as they want to center field.
Mets have had 9 fly ball outs in this game against Ortiz. And yeah, he's a fly ball pitcher. That's how he gave up all those home runs in Cincinnati last year. But tonight, Shea Stadium is playing like RFK Stadium with that wind blowing in. 1-2 to Reyes. I mean, the ball Vidro hit was crushed.
That ball on any other night is out of this park or any other park. He hit it right on the screws.
Paul Duca on deck. On 1-2, Reyes slaps it foul.
I remember in RFK, Vidro had a couple of sky balls to center field that could have been home runs, and the next day kind of popped off about the field and how difficult it is to hit there for the hitters.
And that's one of those things that can be so self-defeating for a team.
Self-defeating, and also I think wouldn't help the Nationals. Nationals don't have those home run kind of hitters. They're better with pitching and defense.
Reyes keeps the at bat alive. But I remember when Petco Park opened 2 years ago, the Padre hitters were complaining vehemently about the park's dimensions, and Giles and Klesko especially about the fact that
Nevin,
that they couldn't hit home runs there. Reyes goes the other way, but Soriano had him played well, and then it goes over his head. Misjudged by Soriano. Reyes to second. He'll take the turn. He'll try for 3. Now he's going to try and go back, and he's in a rundown. Johnson puts the tag on Reyes. So poor fielding by Soriano, poorer base running by Reyes, and it's the second out of the inning.
well, good line drive swing here. Soriano gets turned around, misses the play, but the extra miss is also Jose Reyes, who almost stopped going to first and then tries to turn this into a triple. You know he's a triple machine, but the team down 1 run, and a smart play by Nick Johnson, the first baseman, who covered second base following Jose Reyes as he rounded the bag.
Reyes lost that triple between home and first. Reyes is a guy who, when he hits a ball that has a chance to be a triple, generally is running hard out of the box, but he did not run hard to first, and that's why he didn't get the triple.
Never assume, especially with Soriano in left field, can never assume that the ball is going to be caught.
2-0 to LaDuca, and that's one of those things that Willie Randolph tends to handle so well. He is going to go to Reyes at some point, whether it's during this game or after the game, and they're going to have a little chat about that. 3-0.
Well, it's a bad baseball play on so many levels because, you know, with his speed, he could just round second and steal third in the future. He could get to third base on his, LaDuca getting him over and scoring a run. I know you've been giving the stats about how well he does when he's on the bases scoring. So
3-1 to LaDuca. Let's check in with Chris Connor.
Well, Gary and Ron, you know that Reyes is such a good-natured guy, kind of almost more embarrassed than anything. But when he came into the dugout, I'm sure Willie will speak to him, but bench coach Jerry Manuel had a few choice words for him as well.
LaDuca drives one to left. Back goes Soriano near the track. It's over his head and almost goes out of the park. It's right at the top of the fence, and LaDuca has a double. So LaDuca barely missing a home run. Remember, he had a home run that accounted for the only run in the Mets' 1-0 win in Atlanta on Saturday night. But instead, he has his 6th double of the year.
of course, doesn't it always happen after a base running mistake? Next hitter comes up and crushes one, and the ball, even though it is not carrying to center field, sorry, it is carrying to left, as those last 2 balls off the bat of Reyes and LaDuca flew over the head of Soriano.
Well, Soriano looked so good on a few balls earlier in the game. That one he had no chance for, but misplaying the one by Reyes previous to that. And Reyes getting the experienced head of Julio Franco involved as Beltran takes a strike.
That's usually the case with a younger player tries to explain to the older player what his thinking was, and the older player going, well, that was just bad thinking, as he tries to explain to him what the right way to play was.
I mean, Reyes made 2 mistakes on that play. One was not running hard to first. The other was trying for a triple when he didn't have a chance for one. And then trying to think better of it and getting tagged out in the rundown. And that's, I think, what Julio is trying to explain to him, that there were 2 things that he did wrong on that play.
Well, that's great to see. I just love to see Julio Franco, the way he's been on the bench all year long.
Beltran has flied out and drawn a walk today. Well, the Mets, with the guys they added this year, added such leadership skills, not only with Franco, but with Lo Duca as well. A guy who can really manage and cajole a pitching staff. 1-2 to Beltran. And then you add in Delgado, a guy who has such great presence and leadership in that clubhouse. So you've added players who not only can contribute on the field, but are so important to this team off the field as well.
Well, it shows all these young players, whether it's Anderson Hernandez when he comes back, Jose Reyes, David Wright, how to be a pro, how to approach your job day in and day out, because that's what this game is. It's not only talent, but the ability to be consistent over 6 months. Very difficult.
And Schneider will go to the mound. And I think that's a good point, because, you know, in other sports, talent wins almost every time. In football, where you play once a week, you can gear yourself up for every game. But in baseball, where you play 7 days a week for, well, if you include spring training, for 8 months, it's concentration levels, understanding, consistency, all those things are sometimes even more important than athletic ability.
Yeah, and also knowing that you're going to have those days, you're going to have those stretches where you're 0 for 14 like Delgado is now, and just managing those times, making sure that you minimize those bad times and you maximize the good times.
And that's what a guy like a Franco, a guy like a Delgado, a guy like a Lo Duca can help a young player with.
Now, Omar Minaya, he did a great job assembling this team, and he not only assembled it for talent, because you always go talent first, but it's great when you also get that extra combination.
Beltran lifts one, shallow center. And Marlon Byrd has another play, and the inning comes to an end. So Ortiz gives up 2 doubles, but no runs. We're through 5 at Shea, 1-0 Washington. Take your family to Shea. The MasterCard Grand Slam Ticket Pack offers 4 discounted tickets and Mets money. For more information, call 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com and have your MasterCard ready. Alfonso Soriano leads off the 6th inning in a 1-0 game and takes a strike from Zambrano.
Well, big inning for Zambrano here with this 1-0 lead for the Nationals. Has to go through the meat of this order. Best hitters for the Nationals.
Soriano 1 for 2, takes a slider away, 1-1. Well, it's been a good night for Zambrano so far. Gave up a run in the 4th after a leadoff walk, but otherwise has kept things in control. 1-2 to Soriano.
It has been a good game, but these are the kind of games for a starting pitcher. You see Nick Johnson on deck, that you start to have to smell the game. You know it's going to be a low-scoring game. You cannot allow them to score any runs from here. Give your team a chance to come back in the game.
Mets have had ample chances to score, but have been unable to break through against Ortiz. Slider hit to short, caught by Reyes. Reyes with a lunging grab, 1 away.
Well, Jose giveth, and now he taketh away with this beautiful play. That ball got on him so quickly. Soriano just playing a line drive. Good play.
You can be guaranteed that Reyes is going to have his head in the game and be on his toes the rest of this game. 1 out and nobody on. Here's Nick Johnson, who walked, stole a base, and scored the only run of this game, and he takes a strike. Johnson has a great eye at the plate. Always up among the league leaders in on-base percentage, and he is again this year, up at .455. That's 6th in the league. To center field, and again the wind will cut this down considerably. And Beltran has it 2 away. You know, when you coach Little League, you always tell players there's no such responsibility on the field as standing around and watching.
Yeah, well, Nick Johnson's not one of those players. Soriano misplays this ball, and he'll throw it to third, which makes Reyes go back. But Reyes is going to be safe at second unless you're an intelligent infielder and you follow the play, as Nick Johnson, the first baseman, did, and cover. With an inexperienced outfielder like Soriano, what do you have to have? The center fielder backing you up.
And Guillen to second. Nice play by Matsui, and he throws him outside, retired. Matsui going nicely to his left, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Victor Zambrano with some help from his defense. Reyes and Matsui with fine plays, still 1-0. Carlos Delgado leads off the bottom of the 6th inning. Mets have had scoring chances each of the last 3 innings against Ramon Ortiz, but have been unable to break through. Delgado now in an 0-for-15 skid. And he takes ball 1 from Ortiz. Carlos tonight has struck out and then lined one to left, and Soriano made a nice play going back on it in left center. Three infielders on the right side against Delgado, who takes a strike, 1-1.
Problem with all the film that you have nowadays, as soon as you start to get into a slump, every pitcher sees where the other pitchers are pitching you. They go at that problem, and then in batting practice you have to work on that problem to make that adjustment.
2-1 to Delgado. And of course, being a great hitter means minimizing the length of your slumps. Everybody has them. It's how to stop them and how quick you stop them.
And that one's driven to deep left field. Soriano can't track it, and it's out of here. Carlos Delgado with an opposite field home run, his 10th of the year, and it ties up the ball game.
Well, the wind has been so strange here tonight, and that ball was blown toward the corner and off the retired numbers. Jerry likes it. That's the way to snap out of a slump. So it's a 1-1 game. And here's David Wright, and he hits one in the air. That won't go very far. Soriano getting tested with every play. That's the first out. It's almost like the Mets have put a target on his back. And you know, this is the Mets home run inning presented by Amtrak Acela Express. Delgado beat us to the punch. If a Met hits a home run, and he did, one grand prize winner will win a trip anywhere in the Northeast. How to stop him and how quick you stop Acela Express.
Driven to deep left field.
To enter or to see if you're a contestant, visit sny.tv/Amtrak today.
Well, no one happier than Jose Reyes with that home run by Delgado.
Floyd hits one in the air, shallow center. And Marlon Byrd coming in as the wind grabs it, 2 away. So the Mets continue to hit everything in the air against Ortiz.
Now, sometimes you got to pick up your teammates, and Delgado picked up Reyes with that home run. Looked like just a line drive to left field, maybe a double, and it's just a wind tunnel in left field now, and sent it over the fence.
Where's the notebook? I didn't see the notebook.
Oh, you don't have to write anything in when you hit a home run.
Oh, that's what he writes the most. Maybe put the notebook away going 0 for 15. And Nady takes outside. Nady has doubled and walked. So that day off seems to have done him some good. Nady up to 319 on the year. 2 out and nobody on, bottom of the 6th. Mets have tied it at 1 on Delgado's homer. And Schneider took the brunt of that. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Foul tip hits on top, gets him right on the thumb. That's a real weak area for catchers. A lot of them will wear a pad, kind of a plastic insert, that'll stop some of those deflections hurting their thumb.
Bent that thumb right back. 1-1 to Nady, and you wonder how catchers ever hit. Fouled back. Speaking of catchers, you see the Red Sox today reacquired Doug Mirabelli because nobody could catch Tim Wakefield.
Boy, that's amazing, right? That you'd have to go get a guy because one of your solid starting pitchers, and Wakefield has been for the last 8 to 10 years. As you can see, the Yankees got a 1-run lead in Boston.
Over Wakefield and the Red Sox. Josh Bard backing up Jason Varitek was trying to catch Wakefield. He had, what, 10 pass balls already this year? 14 pass balls?
I think that's one of those things, too. Once you start missing a few of them, it gets in your head.
Slow ground ball. Jackson charges. Quick throw off the bag. The ball comes loose, and Nady's safe.
Now Jackson and Johnson did everything right until the contact was made on the tag and the ball popped out of Johnson's glove.
Well, tough chance for Jackson. One of the things you have to do when you're throwing on the run from third base, you have to aim it towards the second base side because it is going to tail back into the runner, which it did here. Johnson makes the catch, but Nady, with that big body, able to knock it loose.
And they give Nady credit for a base hit. So Nady now with a double, a walk, and an infield single. And the Mets have the tie-breaking run at first with 2 down for Kaz Matsui. Matsui has been up twice and flied out both times. In the 4th, he flied out with the bases loaded to end that threat. And there's ball 1 to Matsui. Change up from Ortiz, and looks like Willie Randolph is ready to bat for Zambrano if Matsui can keep the inning going with Jose Valentin on deck. 1-1, bottom of the 6th. And Matsui takes a strike, 1-1. Well, if Zambrano is done, as you look at Pedro Feliciano warming up, the Mets have got to be thrilled with the steps that he took forward today.
Yeah, and I think if you're a pitcher, you'd like to stay out there in a tie game. Maybe you're hoping that Matsui can drive in Nady from first with a double, but
there's a line drive, base hit, prophetic. Nady toward third. Bird cuts it off. Nady being waved and now held. It's a double for Matsui, but not deep enough to get the run home. And now with runners at second and third, Zambrano is definitely out of the game, and Valentin will come up to bat for him.
Well, good hitting by Matsui. Ball down. You want to see him hit line drives and ground balls. When he's struggling, he's hitting those fly balls in the air. But good job by Marlon Burr with that good speed to cut it off, and that stopped Nady from scoring.
So the Mets with yet another opportunity. They left 2 on in the 3rd, left the bases loaded in the 4th, had a pair of doubles in the 5th and didn't score. And now after the Delgado home run ties the game, they have 2nd and 3rd and 2 out. And here's Valentin, just 3 for 22, but one of those hits came yesterday when he singled up the middle in Atlanta. Randy St. Clair, the pitching coach, going to the mound for the Nationals as Zambrano looks on, hoping the Mets can get him a lead and a chance for a win.
Well, a lot of great things can happen here. They can get a base hit from a guy that would love to get a key base hit for the team, veteran Valentin. You could get Zambrano the win, the Mets or the Mets the lead anyways. But this is one instance where you would definitely have the pitcher out of the game anyways, as you see the ex-Met, Yankee, Mike Stanton going on the mound. I think this is really positive. I think for his state of mind, the way he's been pitching, I think to bring him out after 6 innings, after a positive effort, is a real good thing for Zambrano.
Now this is an interesting call with Randy St. Clair going to the mound. Valentin is coming up, and Valentin's had a rough year, as you see John Roush joining Mike Stanton in the bullpen. But Valentin is 5 for 12 in his career against Ortiz, and first base is open. They'll pitch to Valentin, but Ortiz knows the history. 2nd and 3rd and 2 down with Reyes on deck. Ball 1 to Valentin. Well, we looked at it earlier. Mets numbers with runners in scoring position with 2 out, the best in the league. Some 56 points above the league average. And Valentin trying to pick that run up. One and 0 to Jose. Grounded toward first, a foul ball. 1-1. Nady, the runner at third, he reached on the infield single. Matsui at second, he doubled. The Mets now have 7 hits off Ramon Ortiz, and 5 of them have been for extra bases. Mets would settle for a little single anywhere past the infield here to get those 2 runs home.
Ortiz also has thrown a couple of sliders in the dirt. They've been difficult for Schneider to stop, so Nady should be on his toes.
1-1 to Valentin, who's thrown 103 pitches on the night, and you have to figure one way or another this is going to be his last batter. He'll be due up 4th when the Nationals come up in the 7th. 1-1 to Valentin, batting for Zambrano.
drive, right field. Guillen is there, and that ends the inning. Well, Valentin hit it well, but Guillen right there to grab it. So the Mets settle for tying the game on the Delgado home run, as Carlos Delgado, who hit 9 in April, starts off May with an opposite field shot. 1-1 as we go to the 7th at Shea.
Matt Yaloff here with a Chevrolet Baseball Night in New York update. Rockies in Atlanta visiting the Braves, and Marcus Giles doing damage with the bat. The Braves up 2-0 in the 8th. Tim Hudson, 8 innings. He's still in it. He's given up 1 hit. Back to Gary and Ron.
Well, the Mets are certainly used to that kind of treatment from Hudson, who pitched a great game here at Shea earlier this season. The Rockies, meanwhile, riding high in the National League West at 15-10 and leading the division.
Well, I'd like to see that for the old Met, Clint Hurdle, whose job seemed to be in trouble last year as they struggled mightily, the Colorado Rockies, but off to that quick start.
Pedro Feliciano on to pitch to the left-hand batting Brian Schneider, and misses with the back with the inside breaking ball. 1-0. Schneider's driven in the only Nationals run with a 4th inning single. So Zambrano's out of the game. He can't get a win, but he's certainly got a lot of points tonight as Juan Sanchez starts to get ready. 1-1 to Schneider. Zambrano threw 90 pitches over 6 innings, allowed a run on 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and leaves in a 1-1 game. Two and 1 to Schneider.
Well, for Zambrano, that's just a very positive outing, something he can try to build on when he throws on the side. Rick Peterson says there's not many people on the team that have any better stuff on the side than Victor Zambrano. I played with a pitcher, Tim Leary, after he came back from his injury, who he would throw on the side. I'm telling you, every pitcher on the staff, including Dwight Gooden, would watch him throw. That's how good his stuff was. He couldn't always translate into the game until later in his career with the Dodgers.
3-2 to Schneider. Tim Leary was a huge prospect with the Mets, who hurt his arm on a cold day at Wrigley Field early in the season and was never able to perform effectively as a Met. But as you say, he figured it out later on. 3-2 to Schneider. Feliciano can't walk the left-hand batter. He throws it by him. Strike 3. So Feliciano strikes out the first man to face him. 1 out and nobody on. And Feliciano's look good. He faced 2 batters in Atlanta yesterday and retired them both. Mets games are available in high definition quality across various cable providers, including Time Warner Cable and IO Digital Cable service by Cablevision. Get the Mets in HD. Here's Clayton, who's grounded to short and flied to right, 0 for 2. And takes ball 1 from Feliciano.
Well, we were talking earlier about managing your pitching staff. Feliciano's one of those guys you like to bring in, fill up an inning here in the middle of the game.
2-0 to Clayton.
Hopefully the Mets can push across a run, and then you go with your Juan Sanchez or your Aaron Heilmans to get the ball to Billy Wagner.
Feliciano making his 7th appearance since being called up, and he's given up just 1 run. Now he falls behind Clayton. 3-0. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Chris Cotter with you from Shea Stadium. Mets opening a 7-game homestand with the first of 2 against the Nationals, and tied 1-1 as Washington bats in the 7th. And there's ball 4 to Royce Clayton. So Feliciano, after striking out the left-hand hitting Schneider, walks the right-hand batter Clayton on 4 pitches. And now Damian Jackson, another right-hand batter, will come up.
Well, Feliciano had the right idea, as you see Jackson with that solid single up the middle off to Zambrano. He had the right idea, trying to keep this ball down to get a ground ball from one of the right-handed hitters. See if he can do it against Damian Jackson.
So here's Jackson, 1 for 2 on the day. And Feliciano checks in on Clayton, who has not stolen a base this year. He's been caught twice. There was a time when Clayton could steal a base, but his wheels not quite what they used to be at age 36. And now Feliciano is called for going to his mouth on the mound. That's the 2nd pitcher caught doing that tonight.
Very strange. You're told that tonight it's a cool night that you can blow in your hand, But very strange that would happen twice.
And Delgado wisely coming into the mound. Feliciano looking upset. And that's exactly what Ortiz did earlier in the game, and he got called for it, and so did Feliciano.
And a sigh from Rick Peterson. Those are the kind of things you don't expect to see at this level.
He'd given away ball one. Fastball knee high for a strike. 1-1 to Jackson.
You had a good point there, Gary. Delgado coming in, just another example of veteran leadership. Didn't want him to worry about giving up that ball one. Concentrate on the hitter. Go get a strike.
You saw the ex-Met Marlon Anderson waiting on deck. And there's a strike. Good pitch by Feliciano to get up on Jackson. 1-2.
A nice pitch, fastball down, and then this changeup that he just pulls the string as Damian Jackson is completely fooled.
It's a third pitch for Feliciano. John Roush up in the bullpen for Washington as they work down toward the bottom of the order. Curve fouled off. 1-2 to Jackson. This is only the third game Damian Jackson has started for the Nationals this year, but he's already played 5 different positions for them. Was an important utility man with the Padres last year as they won the National League West. Feliciano ahead 1-2. Just missed the outside corner. 2-2.
Made the home plate umpire flinch on this one. That ball's real close. You watch the umpire. He's thinking about it.
Two and two now to Jackson. Tried to go to the back door, couldn't get it there. 3-2. So now you got Clayton at first, Jackson at the plate. And if you're the Nationals, you don't want a double play ball here. So do you send him?
I think you send him because Jackson is a contact kind of hitter in his career. Doesn't have that many at bats this year. And Royce Clayton has good speed.
3-2 to Jackson, and Feliciano checks in on Clayton. Frank Robinson trying to manage his team out of a slump. It's been a tough slog for the Nationals through the first month of the season. Just 8-17. Tied at 1 in the 7th tonight. Clayton runs, and Jackson flies one to right. Easy play for Nady. And there are 2 away. So Feliciano gets Jackson. Now 2 men down. Marlon Anderson had been on deck, but he's not going to bat here, not against the left-hander. And let's see, Livan Hernandez is going to pinch hit. Well, we mentioned before how short the Nationals bench is. They're missing Ryan Zimmerman, who's away following the death of his grandmother, and they're missing Ryan Church, who's down with a stomach flu. That leaves them with a 3-man bench, and the only right-hand hitter on that bench is Matt Lecroy, the backup catcher.
You can't use him in case Schneider were to get hurt.
So Livan Hernandez, who's been having a rough go of it on the mound, but is a very good hitting pitcher, will be the pinch hitter.
Probably the 2 pitchers in the National League who are used the most, as you see Rick Peterson, I guess, going to give Feliciano a scouting report on Livan Hernandez. The 2 pitchers in the National League who are used the most as pinch hitters are Livan Hernandez and maybe Jason Marquis for the St. Louis Cardinals.
If he were healthy, Mike Hampton would be in that category as well. And Dontrell Willis, don't forget about him.
Dontrell has.
Yep. Well, the best scouting report on Livan is that he's a free swinger. He already has a home run this year. He's 4 for 15. But Livan is a big guy who's a terrific athlete, great fielder on the mound, and he can hit. So he bats here with 2 out and a runner at first in the 7th inning with the game tied at 1. So Ortiz is done for the night, and Hernandez takes outside. So both Ortiz and Zambrano go 6 solid innings. 2 pitchers who had really been struggling coming in. One out to Livan, tapped to second. And Matsui makes the play on Hernandez to end the inning. So a strong inning for Pedro Feliciano. A walk and one left. 7th inning stretch time. Still Mets 1, Nationals 1.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mets and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mets.
Job well done by Pedro Feliciano, and he gets congratulations from Rick Peterson on his effort. We go to the bottom of the 7th at Shea in a 1-1 game, and 6'11" John Roush, the tallest pitcher in history, takes over for the Nationals.
Well, he's pitched really well for the Nationals out of that bullpen. He and Cordero, Chad Cordero, the closer, probably the best out of that bullpen so far this year. Very tall, does not throw overly hard. His best pitch is his breaking ball and his changeup, especially to left-handed hitters.
He'd been going great guns till he gave up Albert Pujols' record-setting home run in the 8th inning the other night. Pujols 14th in April, a new major league record. Reyes is 1 out of 3, and he takes a strike. Reyes hit one over Soriano's head that Soriano misjudged in the 5th. Didn't run hard to first, wound up getting in a rundown between 2nd and 3rd, got credit for a double, but was sheepishly back in the dugout. 0-2 to Reyes.
It's 0-2, but you would think the Mets are set up perfectly for this inning. Have their leadoff hitter leading off. LaDuca maybe with the ability to get him over, but Reyes has got to get on first base.
To short. And Clayton throws out Reyes, one away. So 1 out and nobody on. And John Roush changing the formula. Ramon Ortiz used the fly ball out for 6 innings. "13 fly ball outs in 6 innings.
Perfect night to do it. Wind blowing in from right and center, but at the end of the game it seems like the ball is traveling to left.
Here's LaDuca, who takes a knee-high strike. Well, Delgado hit the home run to left, a ball that started in straightaway left and nearly blew foul, but had enough to get over the wall. One on one to LaDuca. LaDuca doubled high off the wall and left, nearly got the ball out of the ballpark. Hit it off that Bud Light sign in left field. About a foot from the top of the fence. Came that close to his 2nd home run. Hits this one to right along the line. Guillen playing over that way, and he makes the running grab for the 2nd out. So 2 out and nobody on. The WB11 knows you want an accurate, reliable weather forecast you can plan your life around. That's where Mr. G comes in. He'll tell you what to expect morning, noon, and night, plus the days ahead. Mr. G's planning forecast only on the WB11 News. Well, Frank Robinson's on his way out to the mound. Looks like he might want the left-hander to turn Carlos Beltran around, and he takes the ball from John Roush. And so Mike Stanton apparently is coming into the game to face Beltran and make him turn around and bat from the right side. So a pitching change for the Nationals. 1-1 in the bottom of the 7th. Hey, Mets fans, always traveling and missing games? Watch Mets games live online whenever you're away from New York, exclusively from MLB.tv. Mets.com has more live games than anyone else. Mets.com, where baseball is always on.
Boy, this is great. That's what I always wanted. You're my favorite 86 Met.
Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling, Mr. Met, 3 tremendous celebrities selling jerseys.
Yeah, the Oscar is going to be in someone else's hand again this year. Oh.
Speaking of on, Mike Stanton has been on so far this year.
Well, he has. The veteran left-hander, 7th place all time. This will be his 1,040th appearance.
And he needs just an inning and a third to get to 1,000 innings in his career. And you see active career leaders for victories by a relief pitcher. So Stanton brought in to face Carlos Beltran and turn him around. Beltran 0 for 6 lifetime against Stanton. And he takes strike 1. Stanton, the former Met, who in his defense, was overused in his 2 years as a Met. Being used in a more reasonable fashion in Washington and doing well. Taken inside 1-1.
He's more at his career now that you want him to come in to turn a hitter around or face maybe 1 or 2 left-handed hitters. You don't want him out there for an inning or more unless you're in a certain situation where it's an extra inning game.
2 years ago, Mike Stanton was in 83 games with the Mets at age 37, which just wasn't right. 2-1 the count to Beltran, but to his credit, he took the ball every day and never complained, and when he had adequate rest, pitched very well.
You ask anyone that's played with Mike Stanton, he's one of the great pros, great teammates you could ever have, and his postseason record is stellar.
Beltran lifts one to left along the line. Soriano with plenty of time to get under it, and that ends the inning. So Stanton comes in, gets Beltran to fly out, and the Mets are on 1-2-3. On to the 8th at Shea. Mets and Nationals still tied at 1. Duaner Sanchez comes on to pitch for the Mets as we go to the 8th inning in a 1-1 game. We'll check out the Toyota National League scoreboard. It's final in Atlanta. Quick ball game. Tim Hudson pitched a gem for the Braves tonight. Phillies in front of the Marlins 6-5 in the 8th. The Reds leading the Cardinals 6-1 in the 8th, and Houston and Milwaukee tied at 1. Cubs in front of the Pirates 1-0 in the 5th. Later the Dodgers in Arizona and the Padres in San Francisco. Duaner Sanchez, who's yet to allow a run this year, facing Marlon Byrd, and he takes a strike.
Sanchez is just filling this role nicely. Not really much to talk about as far as the statistics, because he's been perfect.
Big fat 0 in that run column. 16 innings, only 7 hits allowed. Last pitched on Friday night in Atlanta, pitched a 1-2-3 inning, so he's well rested. And if necessary in a tie game, you could get 2 innings out of him tonight. Of course, if the Mets got a lead, they go to Wagner in the 9th. Byrd is 2 out of 3. He continues to swing the bat well. Grounds this one, though, right at Matsui. And there's the first out in the top of the 8th. So 1 out and nobody on. Going back to last year, Sanchez 19 straight scoreless innings, longest active streak.
It's quite a streak, because you have to remember he doesn't spend any time in the 4th or 5th inning. He's spending time when the game's on the line.
He's been like a machine this year. I mean, it's been as wonderful a trade as the Mets could have hoped for, getting Sanchez for Jay So. So finally pitched a good game in his last outing for the Dodgers, but right now Sanchez has been so valuable. You wouldn't trade him for anybody. Throws the breaking ball and he misses 1-1.
Well, that's what makes him so effective, is that he throws hard enough, low 90s, to set up that excellent changeup and good breaking ball.
Vidro is 0 for 2 and a walk. Vidro's hit his first little skid of the year, 3 for his last 18. Hits the breaking ball to second, and another easy one for Matsui. 2 men down. So 2 up and 2 easily cast aside by Duaner Sanchez. And the begoggled one will face Alfonso Soriano. Someday there should be a battery of Duaner Sanchez and Jason Phillips, just to look at the matching goggles. Soriano 1 out of 3, robbed of a hit by Reyes, who made a nice lunging grab of a line drive his last time up. Ball 1 to Soriano. The Nationals 1 run 5 hits. The Mets 1 run 7 hits. We're now in the 8th. Final game of this series tomorrow, and it'll be a couple of inexperienced pitchers going head to head. Fouled away by Soriano. The Mets will bring up John Maine to start tomorrow. Maine, a 25-year-old right-hander. The Mets got along with Jorge Julio in the Chris Benson deal. And the Nationals will start lefty Mike O'Connor. It'll be just his second big league start. Then the Pirates come in for 2 games with their good young pitching. Breaking ball swung and missed, 1-2.
Well, I guess Sanchez with those glasses as he throws this great curveball, straight downer that Soriano swings over the top of. See, the opposite of Clark Kent. When he wants to be Superman, he puts the glasses on.
The only time we've seen Sanchez take the glasses off in a game this year is when he batted. I asked him why. He said, yeah, sometimes I need them, sometimes I don't. Crowd gets some life going on 1-2 to Soriano. Struck him out. Juaner Sanchez fans Alfonso Soriano. A 1-2-3 inning for Sanchez. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning at Shea. Still tied 1-1. When the Mets are done on the field, Sportsnet New York is still in the game with Nissan Postgame Live. All the interviews, highlights, and analysis immediately following the game on Sportsnet New York. Mike Stanton came on to get the final out in the 7th. He'll stay on to start the 8th with Carlos Delgado coming up as Billy Wagner, hoping for a save opportunity, gets up in the Mets bullpen. You have to believe, though, if it's a tie game going to the 9th, that the Mets would stay with Sanchez as good as he looks. Delgado takes a strike, and Carlos responsible for the only Met run in this game. That came in the 6th.
It was the fastball away that he went with, and it looked like it was going to be a line drive double down the line, but got picked up in that wind tunnel down the left field line, and tie game for the Mets.
It was career home run number 379 for Carlos, and that ties him for 54th place now on the all-time list with a couple of great names: Orlando Cepeda, Tony Perez. That's Hall of Fame company right there. David Wright on deck. Good breaking ball by Stanton, 1-2.
We've seen Delgado before, though, miss a breaking ball that's outside, well placed, and sometimes left-handed starters will double up with that, but they better not leave it on the outside. Inside corner of the plate.
Stanton's been very effective against Delgado, as you see there. No home runs for Carlos against Stanton. Another curveball, and he missed with it, 2-2. Cliff Floyd due up 3rd in the inning. Grabbing that newfangled batting helmet. Different look with those vents in the sides. 2-2 to Delgado. And he hit him in the back. Well, that's the last thing in the world that Stanton wanted to do. He hits Delgado, leading off in the bottom of the 8th in a tie game. Wow.
Well, what happens is that Delgado is so dangerous that the left-handed pitchers, when they're trying to go in, they got to make sure that that's inside. That's the danger you have of hitting a player that's stands right on the plate.
Got him right in the meaty spot. Not a whole lot of pain.
If you're gonna get hit, that's the place to get hit.
Yep. 85-mile-an-hour fastball in the rump. So here's David Wright with Delgado at first. Tie game, bottom of the 8th. Wright is 0 for 3. And he takes a strike from Stanton, 0-1. David has been hitting the ball in the air a lot lately. He's hit into 5 double plays this year, and the Nationals are looking for one here. One and one to Wright.
Although this should be a good matchup for David Wright. Stanton, who does not throw in the 90s anymore, probably will not throw a fastball in for a strike, so can look out over the plate.
David is 0 for his last 10, and all 10 of those outs have been fly balls or strikeouts. 2-1. Mike Stanton, when he first came up with the Braves, oh man, did he have an arm. Threw 95 with that good curveball. Then he hurt his arm and had to learn a whole other craft. Floyd on deck, and then Nady. 2-1 to Wright. Tries to hold the swing, but he went around. 2-2.
Well, good pitch by Stanton, coming in with a little cutter or a little slider down on into David Wright. Late break.
Stanton has a lot of weapons to go to. And now he's got David thinking on 2-2. to left field. Soriano right there. And Delgado back to first, one away. Well, there's another fly ball out from David Wright. Now 0 for his last 11. The Mets continue their homestand tomorrow as they finish up their series with the Nationals. North Fork Bank pregame live begins at 6:30. Mets, Nats tomorrow, only on Sportsnet New York. Here is Floyd, who's 1 out of 3. Singled up the middle off Clayton's glove in the 4th. Mets have had 7 hits tonight. They've left 8 runners on base. Game tied at 1 in the bottom of the 8th. And Stanton misses away. Floyd has never done much against Stanton, just 1 for 6 in his career. Mike Stanton spent 2 years with the Mets in 03 and 04. Last year pitched for the Yankees, the Nationals, and 1 game at the end of the year for the Red Sox. And then came back to the Nationals in the offseason. He said it was the strangest thing walking into that Boston clubhouse. He was picked up by the Red Sox with 4 days to go in the season.
It's got to be a strange feeling. Here you are, you're going to be put in a position because you're a left-handed reliever to maybe save an important game for the Red Sox down the stretch, but you don't know anyone on the team.
Pitched in 1 game in that last series of the year against the Yankees. 1-1 to Floyd, and he lays off low, 2-1. Two and 1 to Floyd, and he rips one to right field. Guillen has room on the track, and he reels it in, 2 away. That's the second one tonight Cliff has just missed.
Well, he's got to be disappointed, but all that hard work is paying off as Frank Robinson's coming out to take Mike Stanton out.
Well, Stanton certainly did his job. Got 3 outs, wrapped around a hit batsman, and now they'll bring in a right-hander to face Xavier Nady as Gary Majeski comes out of the bullpen for Washington. Majeski in, Stanton out, 1-1 bottom of the 8th. '26-year-old Gary Majeski takes over the pitching for the Nationals. Brought in to face Xavier Nady with 2 out and a runner at first in a tie game in the 8th.
It's kind of already been a tale of 2 seasons so far this year for Majeski. In the beginning, his first 9 third innings of work, only 1 run, but now has had trouble of late. He's allowed 8 runs in his last 7 innings of pitching. The people from the Nationals have said that he's really struggled with his control with his fastball. So be able to watch it tonight, see if he can get ahead of the hitters with that fastball. Throws 95 miles an hour with a good slider, changeup he uses against left-handers, but
last year Majeski was a complimentary guy, but with Luis Ayala out for the season, he's been asked to take on a much larger role.
And some people can do it and some people can't, and earlier in the season he's been struggling of late though.
So here is Nady, who's been on base 3 times in a row with a single, a double, and a walk. Delgado the tie-breaking run at first with 2 down. And the pitch to Nady. And Majeski misses away. Nady with his 2 hits tonight up to 326 for the year. Kaz Matsui on deck. Popped up. Vidro retreating. And that ends the inning. So Majeski comes on to get the final out. We go to the 9th here at Shea Stadium. It's still the Mets 1 and the Nationals 1.
This is a Chevrolet Baseball Night New York update. The Braves and Rockies, and Tim Hudson throws a gem, gets Matt Holliday to fly out for the final out of the game. Hudson throws a complete game 1-hitter. The only hit comes from the opposing pitcher. Gary?
That was Jason Jennings who got that only hit. Remember, Jennings made his major league debut here at Shea, pitched a shutout and hit a home run. That's a way to break into the big leagues. And he spoils Hudson's no-hit bid. Billy Wagner comes on to pitch in the 9th in a 1-1 game. Nick Johnson leads off for the Nationals. And he takes a strike. And are you surprised by this? I thought the Mets would try and squeeze another inning out of Sanchez.
And it's pretty easy to squeeze another inning out of Sanchez. He has 3 weapons, has no problem going 2 innings, and really jumping the gun here, bringing Wagner in.
Johnson swings and misses. 0-2. Especially since you generally don't want to work Wagner more than an inning at a time. As you see him throw the fastball by Johnson. And the Mets have 8, 9, and 1 in the order coming up in the bottom of the 9th.
Not only that, if you think he's only going to throw 1 inning, now you've put the onus or responsibility.
Slider in for a call, strike 3. And Wagner with a great pitch sequence on Johnson, 1 down.
Well, what happens is you put the responsibility now, if the Mets don't score in the next inning, on Heilman and Darren Oliver and other people down there. Good slider. Perfect pitch. Nick Johnson has one of the best eyes in baseball. Nothing you can do. Just caught that in front of the plate.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Jose Guillen, who's 0 for 3. And Guillen screws himself into the ground trying to hit that slider. Nothing in 1. And that gets a rise out of the crowd.
Boy, it's a lot of fun when you have stuff like this. Just a nasty slider down and in. As a hitter, when a guy throws 95 miles an hour, you got to be ready to go on that first pitch.
Guillen flexing his knee. That was a very awkward turn he took in the batter's box.
Can't give you too much confidence for the rest of that bat when you miss the ball by that much and almost injure your ankle.
On 0-1, Guillen fouls 1 back. As Wagner came with heat, 0-2. 98 miles an hour. And Wagner's starting to hit the gun a little bit stronger as this year goes along. So Brian Schneider on deck. Struck him out. Wagner blew 1 by Jose Guillen. 6 pitches, 2 strikeouts.
There's something to be said about the mentality of your team when your reliever can come in and blow people away like this. It's really, as a team, you feel very confident.
Jerry liked it. 2 out and nobody on. Here's Brian Schneider, who's driven in the only Nationals run, 1 for 3. And takes a slider high, and that's the first one Wagner's thrown out of the strike zone.
Well, in a way, he did not have his fastball at the beginning of the year. Went to his slider a lot, and maybe in some ways that's going to give him a new weapon.
Misses with a fastball, and now it's 2-0. Wagner doesn't give up much against anybody, but left-hand hitters really struggle against him. Although he gave up a home run to a pretty good lefty in San Francisco, a guy named Bonds. 2-1. Chad Cordero, the Nationals closer, getting loose. Schneider taps 1 weakly. Easy play for Wagner. Side retired. So Wagner comes in and blows away the Nationals, and now the Mets will try and win it in their final turn at bat as they come up in the bottom of the 9th inning in a 1-1 game. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Aflac. Ask about it at work. And by Jeep, the all-new 7-passenger Jeep Commander. It's your world. Take command. Last of the 9th inning at Shea. Mets and Nationals tied at 1. Kaz Matsui will lead off against Gary Majeski, who came on to get the last out in the 8th. Matsui doubled to right center his last time up, 1 for 3 on the night. And Matsui thinks about a bunt, takes ball 1.
Thinks about a bunt. This is a nice time for leading off an inning in this kind of game to take a strike. Make sure that Majeski throws a strike before you go to hitting.
Aaron Heilman getting ready for a possible 10th inning. And again, Matsui shows bunt, and this time takes a strike, 1-1. Matsui trying to get on to lead off the inning. Andy Chavez has come out on deck to pinch hit. If Matsui can get aboard, Chavez is a great bunter. And Majeski finds the inside corner, 1-2. The wind really blowing hard in from center field. Normally, in tie games, you think of home runs winning games. This one might take little ball the way the wind is blowing. And that one just missed. 2-2 to Matsui. Leo Franco batting helmet on.
Lurking.
Matsui swings and misses. Majeski throws one by Matsui for the first out. 95-mile-an-hour fastball. As we look at our AOL game summary, Carlos Delgado tying the game with a 6th inning home run, his 10th of the year. Victor Zambrano with by far his best effort of the year, and same can be said for Ramon Ortiz. Want a better high-speed internet? You belong at AOL. Well, with Matsui striking out and the base is empty, it'll be Julio Franco rather than Andy Chavez to bat. And a big hand for Franco from the fans here at Shea, greeting him for the first time since his record-setting road trip. In San Diego, Franco hit a home run and became the oldest man in history to hit one. In San Francisco, he stole a base, became the oldest player in 97 years to steal one. And then in Atlanta, got a rousing standing ovation, returning to the scene of his past triumphs in the South. Now comes home and tries to help the Mets win a game here at Shea in the last of the night. Franco 4 for 12 to start the year with a homer and 4 RBIs. And he takes inside from Majeski, and there's the veteran looking to take at least a strike.
It was interesting. It's almost like Majeski quick pitched him because he could not get his bat in that kind of cocking action that he gets.
And now it's 2-0. Reyes waits on deck. The Nationals scratched out a run against Zambrano in the 4th. Mets tied it on Delgado's home run in the 6th, and that's been it. We're now in the last of the 9th. On 2-0, Franco takes inside, ball 3. Frank Robinson had his closer Chad Cordero up in the bullpen, hoping that he could get a lead, but stayed with Majeski for the bottom of the 9th in the tie game. Franco taking all the way, and it's down the middle. 3-1.
There haven't been many chances for Chad Cordero. Only 3 save situations he's had so far this year.
That's how bad the Nationals have been going. Just 8-17 to start the year. 3-1 to Franco, and it's ball 4. And Julio draws the 1-out walk. So the potential winning run is aboard. And the Mets will run for Franco. Andy Chavez will come in as a pinch runner.
Good job by Franco getting on the base. Gary Majeski very slow to the plate. That should be an advantage for Chavez, except Brian Schneider throws so well, the catcher for the Nationals.
Chavez 2 for 2 stealing bases so far this year. Reyes 1 for 4 at the plate tonight, a double, but he was thrown out in a rundown between 2nd and 3rd trying to stretch it. And Majeski checks in on Chavez. Reyes just 1 for 8 against Majeski. He was being asked to send this game on to extra innings. You see Johnson holding against Chavez at first, and Reyes fouls one back. Paul LaDuca waits on deck. Reyes has been much more patient at the plate yesterday. Drew 3 walks in the game in Atlanta yesterday.
That was a good month last year. 3 walks.
Fouled away, 0-2. So Reyes up there hacking at the first two. Now he finds himself in a hole. And no thought of trying to take off for Chavez. Oh, and 2 to Reyes.
Toward the hole, base hit left field. Chavez around second will hold up as Soriano fields it cleanly. And the Mets have the potential winning run in scoring position with 1 out.
Boy, this is when Reyes hits the best. Just uses his hands with 2 strikes on him and just plays kind of pepper. Hit the ball on the ground, serve it to left field. With that great speed, even if he caught that Royce Clayton, he's probably safe at first.
And great base running by Chavez to go hard to second on the off chance that Soriano bobbled that ball.
We see so many hitters, runners, sorry, they assume that ball is going to be caught. You're right, Gary. He tore around second base, and if he fumbled it at all, he was on to third.
And of course, getting to third with 1 out is exactly what the Mets would have wanted, but they'll settle for this. A chance for LaDuca to win it with a base hit. Mets have great speed on the bases with Chavez at second and Reyes at first. Mets have not had a hit with a runner in scoring position tonight. They need only 1. LaDuca 1 out of 4. He doubled back in the 5th. Tie game last in the 9th. And Majeski deals.
Toward the middle, grab by Majeski, throws it high, it gets away. Here comes Chavez. Chavez to the plate, and the Mets win the ball game. The Mets win it in walk-off fashion in the bottom of the 9th inning. A potential double play grounder thrown away, and Chavez scores from second base with a winning run, and the Mets win 2-1.
When you're a team that's struggling like the Nationals, you make mistakes late in the game. And if you're a team like Willie Randolph's team, you're trying to get some magic. LaDuca hit this ball hard, but what you have to do as a pitcher, no crow hop. You got to take your crow hop and throw the ball to second base.
And there seemed to be confusion as to who was supposed to cover.
You don't have to rush that throw. Know your runner. Paul LaDuca does not run that well. He had plenty of time to make the good throw and on the first.
A fielder's choice, an error on Majeski, throwing it away. And Seinfeld and company can celebrate. The Mets come home with a win over the Nationals. The Mets win it 2-1. Let's go downstairs to Chris Cotter, who's standing by with Paul LaDuca.
All right, thanks, Gary. I guess you always got to believe. You keep fighting, scratching, clawing. Something good's going to happen, huh?
Yeah, you know, when I hit the ball, I thought I was going to go right up the middle, and he just snared it out of midair. But, you know, we got a break tonight. You know, I'm just happy for Victor. He threw the ball really well tonight, and our bullpen did the job again.
What did Victor do differently tonight than he's done in his first 3 starts?
I think he threw strikes. I think he's a little healthier. You know, he's been a little sick from the end of spring training, and I think tonight he was a little stronger, and he spotted his fastball a little better, and he had a good slider and changeup, and I'm just happy for him because I think he's taking a little heat that he shouldn't be taking. You know, sometimes guys go into ruts like that, and, you know, he threw the ball well tonight, and we expect from him the rest of the year.
And Willie makes the great call on bringing in Wagner in the top half of the 9th inning. I guess he believed and knew that you guys would carry it home in the bottom half, right?
Billy was dynamite tonight, you know, and he's starting to get his stuff back. As you can tell, he was 98, 97 all night tonight. He had nasty stuff. Sanchez, again, what can you say about him? He's been unbelievable all year.
All right, thanks, Paul.
You bet.
All right, Chris, and so the Mets win it 2-1. They got great pitching tonight. Victor Zambrano, a turnaround performance tonight, and that was huge.
I think it's one he really needed also. Struggled in his first couple of starts and needed one of those efforts where he went out there, threw strikes, stayed ahead. He looked like he was very aggressive, especially early in the game, going after the hitters, and just an excellent effort by Victor Zambrano.
Carlos Delgado with the home run to tie the game. Mets got some great defense from Jose Reyes tonight. The good relief pitching as well, and they got just enough offense in the bottom of the 9th to scratch one out and win it. Our final score, the Mets 2, the Nationals 1. Join us for our next Mets broadcast tomorrow at 7 as the Mets again meet the Nationals. Coming up next, it's Nissan Postgame Live. Now from Shea Stadium, For Ron Darling and Chris Cotter, I'm Gary Cohen. Let's go to Steve Overmeyer in our Sportsnet New York studios for a look at what's coming up on Sports Night.